Hello and welcome to Flight Sim Alaska. I'm Dave, the armchair bush pilot. For today's virtual flight seeing tour of Alaska, I thought we'd come down here to Kodiak, jump out of PADQ. That's right here on the main island. From there, I thought we'd go across Women's Bay, Middle Bay, over Calcin Bay, around Chiniak, down the coast here towards this Pasagshak area, and see if we can't find the Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska, down here on Narrow Cape. So that's, I think, the goal for today is to come down and see what's down there. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the airplane. All right, so here we are, just outside the Alaska Airlines building. You can see also the Raven signs here. And if you do fly into this airport, or you fly out of this airport, one of the things that happens, so you actually wait in this building and you come out. I don't remember if it's this door or you come in this door. I don't remember. But the point is that this is where you would come to muster, or when you come through to get your baggage, it's just going to be inside here. You can fly into this airport in a 737, or you might find yourself in something more like a Dash 8 turboprop kind of situation. Of course, we're absurdly in our little NX Cub in the parking spot here for 737 or perhaps one of those Dash 8s. So that's Kodiak Airport, and this is one of the ones you can purchase. I think you can get it on Orbix or the main marketplace here. So let's go ahead and get this airplane started, shall we? All right, so we are cold and dark. I'm just go ahead and set some levers here. Go. All right, very good. Turn the battery on. Fuel's probably fine. Fuel pump. Don't know what lights we would normally turn on now, but we'll just turn them all on. That sounds like fun. All right, cool. Very good. So now let's get her fired up. Very good. Bring that throttle back just a bit. All right, very good. All right, cool. So I think we're just going to go ahead and take off this main runway here and turn right, heading south. You can kind of see it here on the little GPS. Oops, I need to do it that way. There we go. So we're going to come out of here and fly past the Coast Guard base. We'll try to take a look at that as we go, and then over Women's Bay here, and then south along the coast. So that's the plan. It may not be possible to tell at this point, but I do also have the Alaska mesh that you can get from Orbix for this, which provides slightly better, I guess, elevation information. It's pretty darn good in the vanilla sim, but I will say there's a lot of quality of life sort of fixes, and the mountains look a little bit more rugged, a little bit more true to life, and I am enjoying it. It was a really good buy, I thought. So if you're kind of on the fence about whether or not you want to spend the money, if you spend time doing flight simulation in Alaska, highly recommend just going ahead and getting that done. We're just going to do this short field takeoff here and turn sort of immediately to the south as we get airborne. Now off to our left is Kodiak City, and I'll try to point that out when we get in the sky here. We're going to actually go away from Kodiak City and head the opposite direction. There we go. All right, so you can kind of see Kodiak City over this direction, and then the Coast Guard base is just there. Go ahead and turn to the south at this point. And you'll notice all these cliffs here on the airport. This isn't really that true to life. These really are pretty much right on the water. All right, and there's our Coast Guard base right there. And that's pretty good too. I don't think that's like this in the vanilla sim. I'm pretty sure this is part of the airport. Yeah, see, that looks all goofy. This is really just on gravel that's maybe a few feet off of the ocean here. And this, of course, is all mainland Kodiak, just islands everywhere throughout. And again, this here is Women's Bay. And off our nose, which you can't see because it's we're still climbing, is Broad Point, in Middle Bay, just sort of coming up over here. Broad Point is this big spit of land that comes out. We'll be on top of that here shortly. All right, cool. So I think we are on our way. This is going to take a few minutes for us to get out there. You can, in fact, drive all the way out to Pasagshak. There's a road that kind of follows over, around Women's Bay here, and then it cuts over here, and then you can kind of see in the sim where that road is meant to be, and then just sort of hooks the coastline until we get about to Kodiak, and then you can either head towards Kodiak or cut kind of through the mountains down towards Pasagshak, which is where this specific spaceport complex is that we're kind of hoping to find down there. All right, so bear with me while I try to trim this airplane. This is one of the Asobo specials, so doesn't always work super duper great, and I do fight with the trim on this airplane quite a bit, but it's lovely otherwise. So that's why we're in that today. This is more like an airplane you might expect to see here. Although I will say we're not on the floats. You might expect to see an airplane here on floats. This whole island is just full of lodges and that kind of stuff. A lot of hunting out here. I believe there's Sitka black-tailed deer, but the main thing here we've got is the Kodiak brown bear, world-renowned. I guess hunting for brown bear if you're into that kind of thing. Massive bears. Truly spectacular. Here's that Broad Point I was talking about. We're kind of directly on top of that. And then this is Calcin Bay right here in front of us. And again, the road does kind of snake around through here from the main city of Kodiak. Of course, Kodiak is home to the Alutiiq people. If you're interested in their very interesting cultural heritage and history, there is a museum that's very, very lovely in Kodiak Island that has a number of really fabulous pieces of art and history, and it's really neat. I got to visit there the one time I did get to visit Kodiak Island, and that was very cool. All right, I think we're probably okay for flying over towards Kodiak here. So some other things about Kodiak Island here, as you drive, you'll notice these old ranches kind of all sprinkled throughout, particularly up in these valleys. And cattle was introduced first to Kodiak back in like the 1790s by Russian settlers. And in fact, Kodiak Island is a tremendous Russian influence. The Russians came over in, the 1700s and were largely engaged in fur trading and that sort of thing. But they did try the cattle, and it's pretty mixed success with the cattle out here. Recently, it's kind of undergone a bit of a resurgence, and I think at the moment we're looking at about 1,300 cattle being raised on Kodiak Island, according to the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and that's on, how many ranches are there? There's 8 grazing leases on this island. And of course, this whole island, it's one of the main features of the economy here in Kodiak City is of course commercial fishing, and so there's a lot of crabbing in this region. Halibut is a huge deal, even for personal consumptive purposes. Halibut's a really big deal, and of course salmon is as well. And then of course, if you live here, you're a subsistence user. For example, if you lived down in Old Harbor, which is off that direction, quite off the road system, or even in Kodiak, or heck, even in Kodiak City itself, tremendous number of subsistence users, which is to say people who are reliant on foods from the land, for sustenance. They have access to all this, very rich ocean here. Tons of different species of fish and so on, and of course salmon streams throughout here. We didn't pass over the Buskin River. That's sort of the main one for Kodiak City, and that's sort of on the other side of the airport from where we took off. And the way people talk of the Buskin River, I sort of always imagine this big giant river, and it's kind of not. It looks sort of small, sort of a smallish river compared to what I thought it was going to be. So now here we're Kodiak is kind of over here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually head this direction as we come around. And I think, again, I do have the Alaska mesh, and I really think that it improves these mountains quite a bit. You can see that they look a little bit on the rugged side compared to the vanilla sim. It's really worth it for the amount of money you spend. It's, I think it was like 15 bucks. I mean, worth every stinking penny. Although I have found a few issues with it, and I might try to do a video on at least one of those that I found that's sort of spectacular. Now, again, the road out to Pasagshak does kind of cut through the mountains here. It doesn't hug the coast. So the road comes out here to Kodiak. That's where we're at right now. But if you want to get down to Narrow Cave and that launch complex, you're gonna come this way. Let's see. And this is really a scenic place. It is kind of place you can come, for do touristy kinds of things. Of course. Again, hunting is a huge deal. There's lodges out here, fishing, etc. And that's really cool. It's a little bit harder to do on your own. You're probably going to need to come to a lodge or something like this. It's not an easy place that you're just going to fly to and like find a hotel and stuff. You can, but you may not have quite as good of experience. But if you want to plan your own Alaska vacation and this is what you want to do. Of course, there's plenty of people from Alaska who've never been to Kodiak. Of course, there's lots of places in Alaska a lot of Alaskans have never been. So we're just kind of coming around here to line up down there towards Pasagshak and Narrow Cave there. Kind of hug the mountains a little bit as we come through. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So Kodiak Island itself actually stretches quite a long ways to the south here, and there's several islands. Well, there's a lot of islands associated with this archipelago. There's a handful of communities outside of Kodiak City. Kodiak is sometimes considered part of Kodiak City, but it's really not. It's its own thing, and it's 35, 40 households out there, something like that. Not a lot. And then as you go further south, you've got Old Harbor and Port Lions, kind of in that direction. Akiak is way down at the tip, and then Uzinki back up towards the north there. And there's also some, I believe there's some Russian Old Believer settlements kind of on the Fognak Island, which is, again, north of this Kodiak. Or actually, I could probably just show you that on this thing as we talk and fly here. Yeah, here's a Fognak Island. And let's see, where is Uzinki? So... no, I can't see it. It's too narrow here. Well, it's up that direction in any case. My geography in this area is not super duper fantastic, as it turns out. Yeah, anyway, but as you stretch down, you've got, Akiak, Port Lions, and Old Harbor, sort of the main places, and of course just ranches throughout this whole crazy big island here. Alright, so let's maybe get back to where we're at. There we go. And we're kind of coming up here a little bit on where we want to go, and I thought maybe we just kind of cut through here and then loop around, and that's probably going to be as far as we need to go for today's video. Maybe let's take a second to pop out of the airplane, shall we? Cool. All right, so let's stay focused here. A little higher up than I'd like to be. Let's see if we can get a little lower down, just to have a look, and see if we can find any of those buildings or anything meant to represent those buildings. And there's actually quite a bit of stuff out here. I think that this launch facility has a fair amount associated with it. All right, kind of head down towards this narrow cape there. And I know I said Pasagshak a bunch of times, and what that really is the state rec area. And so you can drive out there, you know, fish or hunt, and there's also something called Fossil Beach, and I'll point that out here in a minute. Fossil Beach is the kind of thing you gotta do on the tides, which is tough because I think this is like a 2-hour drive or something. It's pretty darn far, and it twists and turns this road all around, so you know you gotta go all around those bays there. So we should be generally heading directly towards the launch facility right now, I think. So it should kind of be off to our left. It looks to me like they do have a few buildings there, so that's pretty neat. There we go. Let's slow down just a wee bit here. There we go. So I think these are meant to represent the launch facility. That taller building, I think, if you look in satellite imagery, is the actual launch pad thingy. Probably not the official title, but you can see there's buildings out here, and then the fact there are buildings all over the place out here to support this. But I could imagine that would be hard to tell how big something like that would be, and sort of the system automatically trying to render it, not getting very far with it. And I didn't get a good sense of what this was in the satellite imagery. I didn't drive out here myself when I was in Kodiak, but I kind of can't help but wonder if there isn't a dock out here to support this launch facility, because that Pasagshak Road, boy, that's a long darn way to haul big old rockets for, you know, launching satellites into orbit and whatnot. Okay, so off to our right here as we turn to the west, kind of we've got Fossil Beach down here, and I think I just said Fossil Beach is one of those places that it's a lot of neat stuff there. I'm not 100% sure what kind of fossils. I think like old trees and mollusks and that kind of stuff. But you do have to get the timing right on the tides, because otherwise you can't get out there. And so that's that'd be a bit of a drag if you drove all that way. I mean, it's a pretty drive, don't get me wrong, but you know, you'd miss out on what you're aiming for. So out in front of us here is Kodiak Bay. Not directly in front of us, but this big body of water sort of right off our nose, and then kind of off more to the right is Pasagshak Bay there. And then this big spire of rock is Pasagshak Point. And this here would be the road you take to get out here, and this is kind of where it's at. So yeah, that's our little tour out to the Kodiak, well, it's not called the Kodiak Launch Facility anymore, Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska. Kind of a mouthful of a name. I prefer the Kodiak Launch Center, or whatever it was they used to call it. But anyway, that's our flight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a couple of things. And thanks for hanging out with me. I do appreciate it. And I will catch you in the next video. Thanks.